Okay, so now we're going to do the air scoop, and the air scoop is created in the top center of my paper. Okay, it doesn't have to be exactly in the center, but we do need to measure how far it is from the edge because we want to make sure that we have a perfect square. If we try to make a square freehand in the center here, it can be difficult to make sure those top lines and those bottom lines are lined up. So I like to put the air scoop 4 inches from this edge. Okay, so if this has been 2 and this has been 1, I'm going to put the edge of the air scoop 4 inches in. So I'm just going to, it doesn't have to be 4 inches, it's just the way I do it. Okay, so you measure 4 inches in and 4 inches in. If you try to just guess where that square needs to be, you're going to make a mistake and the lines are going to be crooked. The air scoop is the most important part of your skimmer, so we want to make sure that's absolutely perfect. Okay, so that's going to be a dotted line because it's going to be a fold line. And then we want our air scoop to be exactly 3 inches wide in the center, and then there's these little flaps that go off it. If you look at your layout, that's what it looks like. So we're going to measure 7 inches. Remember, we measured, this is 4 inches. So we're going to measure 7 inches away from the edge. Okay. Mark. And then 7 inches away from this edge. Okay, because 7 minus 3 is 4 inches. So this is 4 inches, and this is 3 inches away from that, which is a perfect square. Now we're going to draw this line down. Remember, this is going to be a dotted line because it is a fold line. It's not a cut line. Hold your ruler in place while you make that line. Okay, this is the tricky part with the air scoop. Okay, we're going to be measuring 1/8 of an inch. I'm trying to put the ruler in a spot where you might be able to see it. Okay, so 1/8 of an inch on my ruler, because my ruler is divided into 16ths, because there's 16 marks for every inch. I'm going to count in 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to count in 2 16ths is 1/8. If your ruler is divided into 8ths, you just need to do 1/8. Okay? The way you know your ruler is divided into 8ths is that there would be 8 marks in every inch. You are going to have to count. Part of a measuring skill is being able to look at a ruler and by counting or reading the marks on the ruler, be able to tell what measurements each inch is divided up into. And you shouldn't need a teacher to tell you every time. You should be able to look at it and tell, is this inch divided into 16, or is it divided into 8, or is it divided into 4? Okay, you should be able to tell that for yourself. It's a skill that you should try to gain. Okay, so we're going to measure 1/8 of an inch in from the top edge of the air scoop. Make sure you can see that. 1/8 of an inch, and that mark should be at the very, very top. Okay, it's a very light one. And then at the bottom of the air scoop, that bottom part of the flap is going to be 1, 2, 3/8 in. Or if you notice here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 16ths, which can be reduced to 3/8. And then I'm going to connect this dot with that dot very carefully with a nice light line. It is a solid line because it's going to be cut line. You can see that flap is narrow at the top and it is at the bottom, and that's how we get, when this is installed in your main body panel, it tilts and directs the air downward. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to measure, I'm going to move the paper down a little bit because there's some shadows there, so you better see it a little bit better. So remember, we're measuring 1/8 of an inch from here out in that direction, so it's just 2 16ths on my ruler, and on your ruler it might be 1/8. Remember, you just have to count. Please don't ask me to come over and tell you how many marks are between 0 and 1 on your ruler, because it's a simple counting exercise. If there are 8 marks, that means your ruler is divided into 8ths, and if there are 16, it's divided into 16ths. Okay, so now we're going to do 1, 2, 3/8, right? 3/8 for the bottom part of the flap, and then we connect the dots there. Okay. And that is my layout. That's my entire layout. If you have any questions about the measurements, it's always a good idea to go over them. You look at the plan to see what the measurements should be, and then just check your measurements over before you start cutting and before you start assembly. Okay, that's it.